Hi, everyone. What's up? First day of PAX East. How's everyone doing? Hey, there you go. So welcome to the FGC Who Are We panel. My name is Saki Sakura. 3 years ago, if you met me, I used to tell you that I hate fighting games. I actually would tell you that my streaming career would have been focused on JRPGs and adventure games, and we kind of would have kept it at that, right? But thankfully, when Mortal Kombat 11 came out, that's when my life completely changed to an awesome direction, right? From experiencing a game that not only did I fall in love with, but meeting a group of women that are part of the FGC that introduced me to locals and majors, to then becoming like an actual streamer and content creator for fighting games, and then to be able to commentate on the biggest stage in the world, EVO, last year. My life's been pretty good since I started playing fighting games, but I think the biggest thing and one of the reasons why I'm doing this panel is because the Saki that would have been able to have found out in high school about fighting games and even earlier would have blossomed into something way more than in the last 3 years that I've just bloomed with becoming part of the fighting game community. If I knew that there was a group of people just like me out there, that would have changed my social life completely and would have definitely made me a stronger, more comfortable person in public than today. So with my hope on this panel is with my lovely panelists who are going to be introducing shortly, I hope to inspire that future generation of fighting games that we came from the cabinets, now we're online in majors and competing, and there's a cool group of people that are just like you, that are enjoying pushing buttons and having like a really healthy competitive space that's for everyone. So without further ado, starting off with Emmy, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Emmy, also known as Emmy BB. I'm the team manager of Kunoichi. We're an all-women FGC esports and content creation team. I'm an event organizer, I've done commentary, I've done competition. I love pressing buttons. That's me.
It's me?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is how you're gonna greet me on the floor if you ever see me.
Oh no, oh no.
She's doing it.
I'm doing it. I promise. I promise. Right. It's the finisher, and we're greeting each other with that. My name is Aziza Brown. I'm the owner of Dynamic Focus. It is a grassroots FGC esports team. I'm also the person that helps finance the Queen of the Hill series. I'm an investor. And I also am a host of TO Talks with this man right here. And we're going to be starting a new company, and he will talk about that too. So that's me, Aziza Brown. Hi.
David?
Aziza is an engineer. I just want to put that out there. You saw that dance just now? So all of you that are engineers, that's what's going to happen to you after you get your degree.
Yeah, basically, like you're
Just
going to be
put
crazy.
that out there to you. My name is David, AKA Calm Warrior. On Twitter, you'll see me as Autobot Jazz. I've been in the FGC for about 25 years. I've opened about 3 or so companies within the FGC. Currently, the one that I'm working on now is the 6 Button. That one is focusing on growing the FGC and making the FGC a more welcoming place. And we intend to do that by making the tournament organizers more business savvy and be able to deal with developers and other organizers and create events and be more wide-reaching so we can capture as many of you people that don't know. I used to live in Boston, and I remember I used to ask people questions about fighting game tournaments and they didn't know. You know, this was like in Waltham and Winchester and stuff like that, and it was weird to me that people didn't know about the FGC. We were already on TV. We were already on the internet and stuff like that, but it speaks to what Saki said, right? She was in high school and didn't know about us. And for us people, quote unquote OGs, it's almost like, you remember when what's that one movie with the lady, the vampire versus the werewolves?
Underworld?
Underworld. It's like that. It's like we exist among you, but you don't know that we're here.
We'll
You know what
definitely,
I'm saying?
we'll definitely be going into some
You know
more
what I'm saying?
detail.
No, I get it. I get
Scary.
it.
Like a lot of people still don't know that we're here.
We'll definitely be going into more details with our questions tonight. But then let's go ahead and introduce Brad.
Brad, yeah.
Hey, I'm Brad Muse. I am a commentator, sometimes content creator, and I am the talent manager for Casa Bunch. If you would have heard of me, I was on EVO last year. I've done East Coast Throwdown, CEO, and I've been commentating for 5 or 6 years now. I've been in the FGC since about 2010, also local to Boston, so I got my start up and around this area, and I still, all my roots are up here.
Nice. So as you can see, our panelists have experiences both when FGCs and as far as fighting games on those cabinets happening in the 70s, the 80s, Street Fighter 3 coming out, Street Fighter 2, all of these games that, you grew up in that arcade and have obviously evolved. We have Street Fighter 6 right now in some of these booths if you haven't gone and try it. So there's quite a bit of experience here. For my first question for Emmy and Brad, how would you explain to someone that's brand new what the fighting game community is about?
Brad, you start.
You want to start?
You want me to go first?
Yes,
we
'cause
can start with Brad.
I'm still hurting from the 70s and 80s.
The fighting game community is about a shared passion for the games that we play and a spirit of competition. I think it's really the unifying thing is that people get invested into the games that they play in the same way that people might get invested in other games or might get invested in professional sports. The thing for me that I've always deeply appreciated about the fighting game community in particular is that I think it is a grand equalizer in that the barrier between the people that are participating at the highest level, the competitors, the broadcasters, the commentators, the producers, and the people that are consumers, there's no line there. If you are a consumer of fighting games, you are also someone who is playing and competing. And so I think that that's what really fosters the spirit of community that I think makes the fighting game community so unique, is that, if you're in it, you're in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's even going on beyond competition, it's the artists, it's the commentators, it's the streamers and everything, and it creates this huge community of people that love fighting games above all else. And I think unlike a lot of other esports divisions where it's like you're playing the biggest, most popular game, you can go to any fighting game major and find 20 people that want to play Sailor Moon on the Super Nintendo, or Breaker's Revenge, or some kind of weird, even a non-fighting game like Windbreakers or something. It's a fighting game, but it's not.
Gundam.
Yeah, Gundam, anything, right? So it's a love of fighting games and its history and the full path that it's taken from Street Fighter 2 to now being celebrated, and a lot of...
Sailor Moon being the specific example you bring up is so funny to me because there's literally people that will run the Super Nintendo Sailor Moon Tournament Fighter at Balance Patch in Boston.
Yeah.
At our yeah, there's people in the crowd that know. I've had to commentate that game. That game is messed up. It's really... It's bonkers. It's a broken game.
The infinite, what is it, Neptune throw?
Yep.
Yep. It's just crazy. No, and you know what's interesting too is that even big stages like EVO, this year they announced the return of Marvel vs. Capcom as part of their $25,000 prize pool.
Right.
So realistically, for example, Overwatch. Overwatch went ahead and evolved into Overwatch 2 and it's become such a different game, but that's that new product. Whereas with fighting games, you're seeing people honestly playing Under Night. You're seeing people playing Marvel vs. Capcom. They went super hard for Marvel vs. Capcom, and that netcode was not the best. So there's just quite a bit of that passion that's happening in the fighting game community that makes it so special. And like Brad and Emmy mentioned, there's no separation of that top player and that casual player, right? You're gonna get that opportunity to not only hang out with that top player, but be able to learn from them, ask them questions, even get to become their best friends at some point, depending on how the interaction goes. So we did mention a little bit about obviously keeping up with the games, and they're appearing constantly in some of these major events. For Aziza and David, let's say someone new is coming into the arcade or into that local for that night. They've just found out. how are you introducing them to a game like, for example, Guilty Gear Strive, compared to in the past where you only had the game in like the arcade cabinet? How would you introduce them now compared to before?
Let me start, and then you can finish.
Okay.
Let me do. All right. So I'm the dad. She's the mom. Arcade era. Put your money up. Call next. Period. That's it. You lose, play again. Your $5 run out, study. Watch the people play, ask questions, and keep on learning. Is it different now? Absolutely. Technology has changed. We have consoles at home. We have cracked systems. We have all this stuff. And what you need to understand is, like, I joked about the engineering thing, but think about how the games got cracked. These were people that self-taught themselves, or they were actually engineers, electronic engineers or whatever, video people that literally, I am not admitting this, I'm not saying yay or nay, but I may or may not have stopped buying Dreamcast games a long time ago. You know what I mean? And that's, have you ever guys heard the term Mango Sentinel? Yeah! We created that. You have to understand our era created that. That wasn't a Marvel thing. That wasn't a Capcom thing. We did that. Yipes specifically, or the Northeast. So like, when you came into the arcade era, you got introduced to this thing where we were hyper competitive, but we were I want to say we were competitive without malice, but we weren't. Because if you beat us, we were a little bit salty.
Yeah.
And we may have carried it for years, but now it's different. Now we compete without malice. But back then, it was definitely put your money up, get beat up, don't leave. We would hold you. We would hold you, don't leave. We would try to fortify you not only mentally, but emotionally for the loss. Everybody got beat. Nobody won their first time around. And if you thought you were gonna come in and win, that's an unrealistic goal to set for yourself. And I think that's a time where a lot of people got burnt out. You don't wanna get burnt out, so we teach you to fortify yourself so that you can stay with us and then grow stronger.
Definitely. Because the put your money up thing was really funny because you also knew what your quarter looked like. And if someone took your quarter, it's like, no, that's not your quarter, that's my quarter. And then we move the quarters.
Right.
So like, we had there was like a code of moral code that we had that we just kind of set for ourselves. And being a woman going into that, it was literally just like going into arcade and just, as long as you put your quarter up, they'll play you. They'll play you.
Next, yeah.
You're next. And it took some fortifying to actually go up there, being like the solo woman in the room. But at the same time, like, there were places where they were just like, yo, she just put her quarter up. They're not even thinking that I'm a woman. They're just like, we're just gonna play her, And like this, I don't know, like this, since everything came online and now with netcode being better and everything like that, the social aspect of the FGC is like something that we have to actually teach everyone that because they never experienced being in a room with another person to see the emotions that they go through when they interact with each other, which is actually really important when you actually compete, because when you compete live, people mess with your emotions. Yep. Teabagging is a thing, and we know that when you're mentally off, we can dominate you. So it's like the teaching of the social interaction is like kind of the interesting thing,
I can actually speak from experience because I used to be on Dynamic Focus as a competitor, and I used to tell Aziza, like, I don't understand why I'm getting so emotional when I'm on that stage competing. Like, I know the game, I know my frame data, I know how everything works, I know my matchups. Like, why am I having such a tough time? And she told me, she said, Saki, go offline. Watch when you go offline, you're gonna thrive. You're gonna see that it's a different ball game. Your body's gonna enter into like a whole adrenaline, but you're gonna be able to control that adrenaline. And
Learn how to ride it. Yeah.
what's crazy is that in the Holiday Matsuri, I went up against a really top player named Lord Knight, and I actually got to beat his bike in. And the Saki before would have never believed it, but guess what? She taught me how to control my emotions, how to be social, how to actually like level up, and that's really important. And when you're like being that lead community member in that local or trying to introduce someone to fighting games, your goal is not to beat them up. Your goal is to help them fortify them, be ready to actually be part of the community and actually enjoy the game and be passionate about it. So this is a question for everyone. We're gonna start from Emmy and then we'll go down the table. So culture is a pretty expansive word, and it's been a big topic in gaming for the last year or so. We talk about gaming culture, we talk about esports culture, we talk about even bro culture in gaming. But what I want to ask, because this actually came up in TO Talks, so when we go down the line, I really want to hear a little bit more. What is FGC culture, starting with Emmy?
A lot of what they talked about, arcade culture, is still a big part of FGC culture. Being shoulder to shoulder with the person you're playing against and feeling their emotions and hearing their buttons pressed and feeling. There's a sixth sense you get when you know someone's mad next to you and you're like, they're gonna mash. 'Cause I can tell how mad they are. I can feel them fuming, right? FGC culture is just getting hype and loving what we're doing and everything about the games we're playing. And yeah, arcade culture is still a huge part of, arcades don't really, they still exist, but they're very minimal at this point. We're still a carryover from those years of arcade culture. And that put up your quarter. We don't have quarters anymore, but get in line. You're next. You're playing. We're gonna play a first of death, and we're not gonna count the score. We're just gonna keep pressing buttons until we feel like we've gotten some level of improvement. So, yeah.
Aziza?
So FGC culture is basically the people that gather at the major, where we gather at the local, we gather at, it's the social gathering of people who love fighting games and the talking of fighting games and all the stuff that we actually built to become this like entity of people that just love this one thing that outlasts like a lot of time. Because the thing is that you see other games, they don't last that long. You have people who have kids, maybe some have grandkids that still meet with each other and still grow and still understand the mechanics of every single thing that goes on in the FGC. And I'm gonna push it to David because I don't want to repeat everything he says, but definitely, it's like we're nomads, yeah.
Okay, because of what she said, it brought a very real thought up. My nephew is in the FGC because I brought him in here. My son is in the FGC. He's 20 years old. I brought him in. He's been playing video games since he was 2, and he works at Spectrum now. He's good at algebra. It's about fighting games. He's always competed because of me. You understand what I'm saying? I used the word, I actually started calling it fighting game culture because I no longer thought we were a community. When we started, we were a community. We used to band together, put our money together, buy things, do things like that. We were smaller. Now we're a culture. We're worldwide. We're multifaceted. We have all different people from all different walks of life, languages, religions, everything, right? So we're a culture now. We're bigger than what we started out to be. We're not just in the arcades anymore. We're not just one set of people playing KOF and one set of people playing Street Fighter. We're all over the world playing all different type of games. So with that being said, the fighting game culture has evolved into something more where people have been in the FGC and they now have collegiate jobs. They now have corporate jobs. They now have jobs, and they're all based out of playing fighting games. They're programmers. They're doing things that are different. They're people that do production, business development, HR, accounting. I teach, I educate, I train in this. Because of me, their other CEO wouldn't exist without me. Real talk. Jay Bailey put it, I'm the calm warrior he's talking about, if you ever read his thing. That's me. You understand what I'm saying? Tong looked up to me growing up. Malik, the guy that does, what is it, the Under Night? Or, not the Under Night,
Oh,
but
the Lunar Face.
some anime tournament he does.
No. It's a Climax of the Night. Thank you.
Climax of the Night, thank you. You understand what I'm saying? These are all people that came from under my tutelage. So like, it's not just something that is small anymore. It can't just be community when the people underneath you come from underneath you and do greater. And that's what you want to be a part of, right? You guys could come into the community and set us to the point where we're filling stadiums. Any one of you could do it. So that's why I say it's a culture more than a community, because one of you may have that special ingredient that brings us into South America, brings us somewhere else, you know what I mean? Because I think this year alone, we had like 2 OG events that shut down. Like, I think it was KIT, and there was another one within a year.
It's the one in Chicago, I think.
I know final round stopped, but that wasn't this year.
Yeah, that was a while back too. But like final round KIT and a couple more shut down.
It was the one in
And
April that shut
you guys could be the next part of the culture. You get what I'm saying? And one of the things that we always talk about in TO Talk is that you can make your own tournament unique to whatever community you like. Like Frosty Faustings started off as a Guilty Gear tournament. I went to their tournament, I played CVS2, there was Street Fighter, there was all type of old games and new games being played, and the place was packed. It was 72 hours open the whole time. It was really fun.
That's another thing. Our events are like 24 hours in terms of, especially
Yeah.
the starting day. We don't stop pressing buttons like at all every time.
It's really,
I'm old, I go to sleep.
praise God.
Praise God.
So, excuse me. But for fighting game culture, just to answer too, like to the bro culture, to go into that a little bit, you have to understand that came from the arcade era, right? And back when we were playing arcades, that wasn't seen as cool, right? Depending on where you grew up. Why are you spending your money on video games? Why aren't you playing sports? Why aren't you playing baseball, soccer, football, whatever it is that the particular demographic that you grew up in played? Tennis, whatever, you know what I mean? Arcade games weren't seen as fun because that was tied to also anime, which was also fun. But now, look at the world right now. Everything is based off anime. Everything is based off video game culture. I remember at one time, and this is before you guys remember, there was no Sunday cartoons. Then all of a sudden there was The Simpsons, the one with Huey, and then all this other stuff. They were all over. So video game culture has influenced everything, stating from the arcade to now. Is there still a bro culture there? Absolutely. Because if you look around this room now, the demographics aren't 50-50 man to woman. They to them, it's not. So the reality of the situation is, do we have to change that? Yes. Do we have work to do? Absolutely. But it's just, I don't know. When I was growing up, the boys were the ones that enjoyed going to the arcades more and playing fighting games and doing things that were aggressive. But maybe that's because of the generation before and how they taught gender roles. And maybe that has to change. And that's a fight that you guys have to take on, and I don't want to take that on at all, but you know what I mean? Yeah. And just the esports culture in itself, for us in the fighting game community, esports culture is boiled down to money. Do we have access to the capital needed to bring the fighting game culture to the forefront? Are we doing what League of Legends is doing? Fortnite gave a 16-year-old $12 million. Are you kidding me?
You gotta remember, Street Fighter 6 got 1 million winners.
Bro, I've been in this thing for 30 years. How long was Fortnite been out? Comparatively. You know what I mean? So it's different. Yeah. But, you know, that's micro purchases and the amount of people that interact online, server. We get it. We understand. But also the barrier to entry is too, like people are afraid of playing competitively and getting, like we mentioned, hurt. And that's why we used to, form a bond around them, say, listen, man, toughen up. You're gonna take these lumps, you're gonna take these L's, but don't leave.
Yeah, it's a tough love.
Yeah, it's a tough love, but
each and every-
it's a part of growing within the culture. But yeah, Brad?
Every person in here is the anime protagonist of your own story.
Yeah,
You will lose and get beat up until you finally become a
actually,
champion.
with the hair, I'm definitely the protagonist here.
Well, yeah, you're the protagonist for sure.
Who's gonna go? Go ahead.
I mean, when I think of fighting game culture, right? Like, and everything that was just said here is all like important and valid. And I think one of the things about fighting game culture that I think makes it so special is its sense of reverence for its own history, right? Like we're speaking to, as far back as arcade culture, like 20 plus years ago. And there's elements of that we look back on and we're like, these sorts of things need to change. But there's also things about it that really made the fighting game community and the culture that came out of it very special. I think of the fighting game community, I think of electrifying events, I think of hype. I don't think there's other communities that get as hype and get as loud and as excited as we
Not
do.
one.
And I think it's part of that blurred line of competitor and consumer that, everyone is excited because everyone sees what's happening on the screen and they know how impressive that feat is and they're all excited about it. And it's just this spark that travels through the room and it ends up this collective experience that if you've never been to a big event with like a fantastic finals, you're missing out because it is the sense of camaraderie, the sense of electricity in the room. It's like a concert. It's like, if you go to that sort of thing, it's that type of boost that you get. And then the come down after as everyone just sort of collects and, refocuses on like, wow, what we just were a part of was really special. And I think that's the part of it when I think of the fighting game culture. I think that sense of excitement and camaraderie is the most fundamental thing that I think separates us and makes us special.
Yeah. When I think about culture, at least when I was growing up and they were teaching culture about school, some of the biggest factors in culture is obviously having the group of people, the customs, the lingo. And when you look at fighting games as commentators, we actually are the translators to the public audience, where we're telling you the story of not just the player, but of what's happening in the match. When I'm seeing in Guilty Gear, Anji twirling through like a Soul 5K, you're probably not going to know what that means. But when a commentator says Anji just danced through Soul's kick, that says quite a bit and is able to actually get you to understand what's happening on the screen. That same thing happens on that local level. You're telling the story. Stories are getting told constantly. How many times, and we'll have actually a question where everyone will describe their favorite moment in fighting games, but how many times are we talking about, do you remember when Justin Wong did Evo 37, I think it was? Do you remember when? That's like the most common one, like that everybody knows, but that's just an example of how often we tell those stories almost every single day in the community, and that's what culture is all about. You're telling the story of what's happening with this group of people. You're talking in their language pretty much, and it's just like a really awesome time. What's really cool about fighting games is, like I mentioned, when I got into the community, I was like, okay, I don't really know anybody. I'm just gonna come into a tournament and play. I don't know, that seems like a little scary. I suffer from social anxiety, so I'm like, why would I want to leave my house at that point, to be honest? But then I got introduced to a really awesome group of women called Babality for Mortal Kombat games. And that's where I met Emmy. And let me tell you, when I saw that there were women that were not only really awesome and like pretty much like this sisterhood within the FGC, I realized that there is a lot more supporters and a lot more of those groups that allow people to come into the community. So the question I have for Emmy and Aziza, because we all work, the three of us, in these groups themselves to create these highlights and special safe spaces. Why is it so important that these groups exist? And how is it that they support individuals who are new to the scene?
Before
We'll start with Aziza, and then we'll go for Emmy.
Before you do that, could you not say Mortal Kombat games and just say specifically which one? Because I started at Mortal Kombat 1. Tell the crowd what
If
game.
you, no, we could go
Stop
really
talking about
technical
how-
with NRS because they did Injustice as well, and they did other Midway games. Listen, I know my history, okay?
Okay.
It's Mortal Kombat 11, by the way, where she started to learn. By the way, thanks. I stopped playing a trilogy. Yes, go ahead.
Aziza.
Terrible.
We make these groups to actually spotlight and show that we exist in the space, because the biggest issue that we have in the FGC is that more people of cis male gender, I know somebody was offended when I said that, but they're more highlighted in like the scene, like, because the thing is that more people gather, and then they're seen more on stream and everything like that. So they don't, like, people don't know that we actually do exist, we actually do compete, we actually do all these things, and it's best to actually highlight that people of different genders do exist in the scene, because it invites more people to come through, because it doesn't feel like a space that is being gate kept. So, and also another thing is that if you feel comfortable with playing somebody, you get better. There's not like, you can't, like, literally, you can't compete by just practicing at home. There's no way. You need that human element to actually, like, progress, get better, train, and everything like that. So by breaking down that barrier, by showing that there's more people in the space, there's more people that come through that actually want to play games, and some of them become huge competitors. Some of them don't, but that's just being a human in the world. You just need to have the highlight of just somebody just there that's like, oh, that's somebody like me, and I can be friends with that person, and I can play games with that person, and I can get better, That's the true reason why we do this, is to make sure that people know that we exist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are millions of women and queer LGBTQ people that play fighting games, and just based on like the characters and the aesthetics alone, and like seeing all these cool badass women that are in the games, and like they've grown up playing them and I love them, and then they'll watch like Combo Breaker, and they'll watch Combo Breaker for like 4 hours and never see a woman, like, at all. So it's important to like highlight and express that like these communities exist, and help them grow, to help them get a shine. I think Saki being able to commentate Evo had a lot to do with like starting commentary of Babality and starting commentary with like women's events that were highlighted online, and then she got to learn and grow and do a lot from that. It expands the whole community. It makes everybody better. It makes everybody just feel more welcome, feel more at home, and it goes beyond just watching a Twitch stream and seeing the Twitch chat go, oh my God, a grill. And no, a hot grill. And then you have amazing players that are women, some of the best players in the world, some of the best commentators in the world.
Yes.
Being able to highlight and show that off in an online or offline space, if possible, is super important for the community, I think.
Mm-hmm. I remember my first offline tournament was in Florida. Katana Prime was there. He was helping organize it. And when I went in and I saw him, this was the first time I ever met him. I was like a mouse. I'm definitely not the same Saki I was from that moment on, right? But I remember telling him, hey, like, nobody's here gonna act like Twitch chat, right? They're not gonna be like super weird. And he was like, no, nobody's gonna act like that. But if they do, let me know, and we got your back. Like, we're not gonna let you. And the Silver Eye was also there too, another top player from Mortal Kombat. And the thing is that people don't, there is this discussion of like, well, these groups create an easy competition, and that's not the case. In fact, if anything, representation matters. We talk about representation in media, and it actually goes the same way when we talk about representation in the community efforts too. So when you see, I can't tell you how many times I've hosted a Queen of the Hill, and I've not only met new players, I've got them to stay and actually grow. I tell them, hey, I also host weeklies. Do you want to commentate them too? You have like potential. And they are interested because someone's giving them an opportunity and actually opening doors, whereas, if these groups didn't exist, those doors never get open.
Yeah, setting up those connections for women is so important too, because it's really hard to get noticed at first, and especially if you're a woman or trans or non-binary person in a male-dominated community. So setting up those connections in general is just big.
Like, it's really funny how like we started Queen of the Hill. It was because we just got pissed off at one time. This random dude on Twitter was like, "We're the women at FGC," and we're just like, "Shut up." We're just gonna do the representation to make sure that you don't ask that question anymore. And we don't see that question that often on Twitter anymore.
No. A lot of women's events, a lot of women-focused platforms too. Shout outs to Padia as well for really being like that push and helping support like women in gaming and also marginalized genders in gaming, just being who you are, being part of just the gaming community and not having to worry about that. So really quick, I kind of want to go down the line. I'll start first, but I want to talk about probably one of our favorite moments in the fighting game community. So I'll go first, and then everyone can go down with their stories. So just like I mentioned, the most common and like popular one everyone knows is Justin Wong. It was against Daigo, if I'm not mistaken.
Why don't you know that for a fact already? What are we talking about right now?
Oh
my God.
right?
Oh my God. What do we? Oh.
Listen, just whatever, okay?
Okay, Morgan Kombat 11. I got it. Sorry.
I know Street Fighter, okay? Anyways, so Justin Wong does this parry. It was
backwards.
It was backwards? My bad, sorry.
Do you need a layup?
Yes. I need like I'm reversed. Anyways, the biggest moment happened in Evo where it was a parry that just was like, no, you couldn't get out of it. Again, we're talking about like nobody had a lab in their game unless you had like the actual console, and even then you were still stuck in the arcade. And that parry happened, and that's been like the biggest moment in Evo since it happened pretty much, and it's always constantly like referenced. For me though, my favorite moment in the fighting game community was it was at CEO. It was right after we came out of the pandemic and things were starting to open up again. And the power shut out, or the fire alarm and the power shut out at CEO. And everybody was in the middle of their games. We had to exit the building and everything. But the next thing you know, in all of the sections that we were like outside, there was a rock, paper, scissors tournament. Why is that iconic? Because in fighting games, we reference a lot RPS, and it's the fact that you have to rock, paper, scissors your choice in like the match. So seeing an actual like, okay, we can't compete indoors, but we can compete rock, paper, scissors in a competition and make it a tournament. It was the hypest thing ever, because you have people just like doing like anime style, like rock, paper, scissors, and then it was just hype whenever it went down. And that would probably be like my favorite moment, just knowing that we can be hype in that, in like any situation.
I like that.
You're right. I'll shut up.
Fighting game players love like breaking a non-competitive game and like making it like as hype as possible.
Yeah.
It just but
Did you just say RPS is non-competitive?
No, I said RPS.
I said,
No, Emmy.
I said
Emmy.
I mean it's a simple game, but they.
Oh boy, here we go.
Do we have to run the set? Is that what's about to happen?
Bro, you got money? Because I got money. I'll put
We side
you
betting on
Yeah,
RPS at the FGC panel.
Right.
No, but that's us. That's what we
us.
do. That's what we do.
We side bet on everything. You run your mouth, put your money up.
Yeah.
That's how we do it. But no, Emmy, not competitive. Go ahead, Emmy, you got it.
Yeah. Anyway, one of my favorite fighting game moments, I think, I always love watching is it was Evo 2014 maybe. It was Punko versus Daigo. Punko rips the badge off, throws it down, chugs a Red Bull, and then like double perfects Daigo on stage in front of everybody. And the crowd goes wild. It was such a fun moment. It's just like so infectious to watch somebody like really get into it, and then in that huge stage as well.
Yeah, Punko was using a character named Seth.
Yeah, I know it doesn't count, but like it was still high.
It doesn't count.
Well,
What?
He was a grappler. He was a fast-walking grappler with an invincible DP. Listen,
Seth could perfect anybody. I know it. He was broken. I get it, but it was still high.
There might be people in here that don't know what that means. This was a character who defied every archetype that he was simultaneously.
He was all archetypes.
Yeah.
yeah, basically. But he was a glass cannon at the same point, right? So with all the attributes for attacking and power that he had on the offensive side, he only had, what, 900 or 800, 750
It was like
health?
750 health.
Something like that.
Yeah,
He was easy to kill, but if someone had strong offense or good defense, good luck. Now you're fighting against the player and not the character. And that's one of the things that is unique about this. Like Saki had mentioned earlier, where she was like, I did all the frame that I know all of this, and da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so what?
It didn't matter.
If you play one of us from the 70s, we don't care about none of that. We're going to beat you and not your character. You understand what I'm saying?
We're gonna figure out who you
there's
are.
so many metas in the game. There's so much in the game to figure out where there are certain games that set rules. But anyway, I don't want to skip. Sorry, it's your turn, Aziza. Forgive me. Frame that up.
Who needs it?
Who needs it? Who does math anyway?
Right, I know, right? We're just mathletes over here.
Just mathletes.
Yeah.
Just doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So my favorite moment isn't just a moment, but my favorite thing in the FGC is the songs that come out of the FGC.
Did you just say the songs?
The songs.
Songs.
Holy shit. Which one?
I'm not gonna. If you know,
Somebody's getting
I don't know what you're talking about. Nope.
so like just being in.
Come get her, bro.
No, don't get me. Don't get me at all. No, but what you call it? Like, one of the things that you would go to a major, it's not going to be seen there, because that moment was actually recorded. But just going to a major and you're sitting down there and you're watching two people playing a set in the corner and you just see a whole line of people just surrounding that one set and just singing music while somebody's getting destroyed at a video game is the funniest thing you will ever see in your whole entire life. And the thing is that we're all collectively doing it. Like what you call it? It's like if you follow Pork Chop around, and you'll just see people just singing R&B music in the background while he's going. And you're just laughing. That's like literally one of the best moments. And that's why you definitely should come to a major. It's like the human aspect of everything, of your FGC moments. Mine is actually us collectively doing something crazy.
Wow.
Just sitting down there, just literally singing songs, creating music, doing this stuff that you would never see on stream.
I think that's important too. A lot of the best moments at majors don't ever get.
Never get
You have to go.
You have to go.
Yeah, Evo Moment 37 is one drop in a bucket. Several of them happen at tournaments all the time. I promise you.
What's your favorite one, David?
Oh, man. Just now when Saki mentioned Marvel, I cried a little bit on the inside because she mentioned Marvel 3, and when people mention Marvel where I'm from, we're talking about Marvel 2.
When's Marvel?
Marvel 3, Bionic Arm, was iconic for several reasons. Not only because one of the commentators is here, him and Noel Brown both were there, and they both were in the moment. It was the comeback. And that's the thing, right? A lot of people don't understand, it's a story behind the players as well. It's Marn versus Combo Fiend. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you don't know who Marn is, one of the biggest trash talkers,
Feel
he's
it.
been disruptive throughout the
Yes.
culture, and then to see him lose and to see it done by somebody that was considered a low tier character, and this, it was that moment, man. And I think that year a lot of stuff happened as well, where like Filipino champ got mixed up by Ray Ray with Ryu of all people. Like Ryu in a Marvel game is like, he's every man's hero. You know what I mean? Like he has basic moves. He's Karate Man.
Ordinary guy.
Ordinary guy. Ordinary Ryu.
guy, yeah.
Fighting against Magneto, who can move a stadium. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? Those two don't get together. But Ryu starts beating him up, and you're like, yes, I can do this too. Like, you know what I mean? It's like confidence builder. So I think Marvel, a lot of Marvel matches for me, Bionic Arm being one of the ones that was, because I was there. There's something about the energy of being in the room.
It's different.
You gotta go to events. If you take nothing else from me today, you must go to an event.
Yeah.
You have to see it in person. You have to be in the room.
Infectious is the good
It is
word.
very infectious.
It's very
You'll catch
infectious.
it. Yeah.
I've been here for 25 years. Y'all don't know it, but I'm looking at some of my peers, and they've probably been in here than me longer than I have. Like, we've been at this forever. You know what I mean? And it's being in the room when it happens that keeps on, like, filling your soul and making it worthwhile attending year after year. So Marvel 3, for sure, one of my best moments.
Brad?
Now, see, I'm mad because when I walked in here, I had an expectation of what my answer to this question would be, and I've spent the last 5 minutes rethinking it. But I think what I'm going to pick is when we finally got to watch Sonic Fox versus Goichi in the first year of Dragon Ball Fighters. For context,
Classic.
Goichi, a Japanese god, Sonic Fox, a god out of America, really made a name for themselves in NRS titles. And Dragon
DOA
Ball
too.
DOA as well, thank you.
Yeah.
And Dragon Ball, obviously one of the biggest IPs to get a proper tournament fighter in a while, so everybody has eyes on it. And these two are trash talking each other across streams and over the internet. Stylistically, could not be more different. At the time, America and Japan were playing the game fundamentally differently. And so it was the best of America versus the best of Japan. They played it, was it at Combo Breaker?
It was Combo Breaker.
It was Combo Breaker. They played a first to 10, and then that ended up being the finals of the bracket as well, and it did not go well for America. Goichi exposed that we were approaching the game very differently and very wrong. It was eye-opening. You know, as someone who at the time I had already made the leap over to commentator and thinking about the game analytically, it was just, it was like being exposed to a whole new world of, oh my goodness, I didn't know that we could play this game this way. And the way that I thought we were supposed to be doing this, it turns out just does not work when you put it up against this other metric. The way the game is played in America was changed after that. I think that weekend Sonic Fox was already working on a new team. So I think that would be it for me.
Yeah. Just like Brad mentioned, regions have completely different ways of thinking how the game happens, but that's what adds to the culture part, right? Like everybody plays differently, and everybody comes together at these majors, and it's like so infectious because.
Yeah.
You think of these like stories and they're happening because of just how our community just works out. So yeah, I agree with all of these. And again, if you haven't been to a major, if you haven't been to Combo Breaker, Frosty's, CEO, if you haven't even been to your own local, in your own arcade,
It's there, yeah.
it's there. The stories are happening. I can't tell you how many times I have my friends who, like one friend of mine, he goes, oh, I'm a bottom 5 Jacko player, always complaining about Jacko and Guilty Gear, and then suddenly wins his local, and he's like, I had to go through Goat Lewis, I had to go through Giovanna, and just the dramatic effect of everything, that's the story. It's happening literally in your own local space.
Yeah.
So go out there and actually get a chance to see it. You'll see what we're talking about, how we're hyped just remembering it. Imagine when you all are inside that local. So we do have a couple of minutes for some questions before we all sign off. So if anybody from the audience has like a question or if they're
the
seeking...
mics live on the back? Is the mic live on the back? Yeah.
Hello? Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
So if you have a question, you can go to the mic and you can tell us your question. Yay!
Hey,
Yay!
let's go.
Honestly, I really didn't want to do this first, but I got stood up first, so here I am. All right. So a lot of this panel has been about outreach and including underrepresented groups. But with a pandemic and how much better online has gotten, like a lot of players don't even show up to their locals at this point. Like the best player in my state literally didn't even meet him until like East Coast Throwdown. I didn't even know he lived there. So like, how do we appeal to those kinds of people who are just like grinding online and like not showing up to these locals? How do we include those into culture? It's like a question that's been asked quite a few times over the past year or two, and like I haven't really heard a great answer.
All right, so for this question, I already see David ready to like kind of go because we talk about this all the time. That's actually one of our biggest challenges when it comes to the community. So David, you can go ahead and answer this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try to be brief, but I'll try to deal with a couple of issues at once, right? One, keep in mind that a lot of the people that play at home like the solidarity, right? And they're not good with social interaction. Two, we have an issue with rollback. So sometimes the game isn't good for online. How do we bridge the two? There's certain events that are trying to do a hybrid event, online and in person at one time, right? And have the tournament move on that way. What we're trying to do in order to bridge the gap with that is to really, like, let's be for real. If you want me to be very honest with you, I came to this country in the 80s. That was the height of the crack epidemic. The culture of the country was extremely different. We were outside. We played, we interacted with people. It was a little bit more interactive. You guys don't have to do that as much. There was arcades. There are no arcades anymore. There's only arcade I know about is, Galloping Ghost? And I was there because I was traveling. You understand what I'm saying? So what we're trying to do is create a more competitive but without malice FGC so that everybody can come in.
Yeah.
Right? And that means everyone, because I have friends' sons that have actual diagnosed social issues, and we have to be able to interact with everyone where they are. As a TO, I have to take that on as a leadership in my community, in my culture, to say, hey, what are the rules that we're setting up, or what are the guidelines that we're setting up, so that no matter where we are, we capture them. And again, let me be real. Back in the day when dudes used to wear their fingernails a certain way and wear black trench coats to tournaments, we used to call them weirdos. You know who they were? They were the Guilty Gear players.
Lightning.
No.
Guilty Gear is like one of the top games you play the tournament. Am I lying?
No.
I'm looking at this row right here. Am I lying?
Yeah.
Right. We called them weirdos. Now Guilty Gear is like up here. It takes time. So are we actively attacking it? Yes, we are. It's no longer one of those things where we're just writing it off as a side and go, oh, those guys are weird. No, we recognize, because funny enough, as a TO, guess what we also have to study? Evidently, we got to study the DSM, and we got to learn people's mental habits and disorders. So we have to know about people on the spectrum and where they are, and we have to meet them there. And that is no longer acceptable for us to say someone is weird because they don't have the same emotional bandwidth as I have. So yeah, we are dealing with that on every way, which way possible, because we're not as hard as we used to be. We're more educated and open-minded.
Yeah, you have to remember that the 80s, 90s, we were the latchkey kids, you know? Your mom would just, like your two-parent households, we were all working.
Don't make your school call this house.
Don't make your school call this house. Go do
That
what
was
you're
it.
supposed to do. Go home, lock the door. Don't tell them you're home alone.
Yeah.
This is what we grown up, we socialized to survive.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your question. We're going to try to take one more just because we are cutting a little too close to time.
Okay.
And we want to give some time for everyone to like find out their socials. So yeah, last question.
What up, Aziza? How you been? So,
Oh.
I know, yeah, hello, how you doing? I've seen you wear, for all the last 9 years we've known each other, different hats, TO, manager, coach, content creator, photographer. How do you strive to keep that all together in the position you have? Because you've been doing this since even before DF, which, great, the last 7 years has been fantastic. How have you managed to build this without, just burning out?
And she's an engineer. Add that to the list. Sorry.
Does make sense.
I had to put that out there.
So I could just say I'm mentally unwell.
It helps.
It helps.
We just exist. We just exist.
No, literally, the whole how I do it is that I literally there's been a joke on TikTok where it's like you should rest, you should do that, and I'm like, who's gonna do it then? Who's gonna do this stuff that I have to do? And unless I do it. So that's been my mentality for a very long time. It's not something that I would entrust onto other people because it's not healthy, but at the same time, to actually progress and grow my company and do all this stuff, like I had to do the photography, I had to do the social media, I had to do everything like that. I had to have a 9-to-5 job as an engineer. I had to, you actually know, like I deal with a lot of national security stuff for my job because of the fact that like, if there's a crisis, I have to be there. So it's been something that I've been conditioned to do for a very, very long time.
Latchkey.
Latchkey, It's one of the things that like, it's like a tough skin is not something that you just have, you learn it. You condition that. And I would say I all the stuff that I've done to design clothes and everything like that, to build everything like that, I wouldn't want to impress that onto somebody else, to be honest.
Our goal is to make sure that that doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen. So I would actually try to help people branch out. That's the reason why I'm doing stuff for the 6-button, because I don't want another Aziza.
You need a team. You need a strong team.
You need a strong team.
Alrighty, well, since we're going to be wrapping up, we're going to go ahead and tell you where you can all find us, starting with myself. So my name is Saki Sakura. You can find me on all socials as Saki Sakura TV. I host tournaments. I also host the Queen of the Hill series. You can find us, again, on Twitter at the Queen of the Hill series, as well as we're on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm MEBB again. I'm on Twitter, EMMYBEEBEE, like the animal. You can find more about Kunoichi anywhere at Kunoichi CGL, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, all over the place.
Emmy's also starting a new series of money matching people for rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, I guess I am, apparently. Yeah, that's me.
My brain just went to like, because the rock, paper, scissors thing just triggered me to get. But anyway.
Rock, paper, scissors shoot or rock, paper, scissors set shoot?
Shoot, because set
You're
shoot,
right.
we give you preparation.
Sign
you should
up.
never.
Sign
no.
up.
Anyone in this room,
No.
you know, but it's never set shoot.
No, it never says shoot. Shoot, because, we don't want you to mentally prepare. But anyway, continue. You can find me on Twitter. My personal Twitter is ZZ Down, ZI Down. And you can find Dynamic Focus, Dynamic with a K, on every single social media you can find. It's really good to actually make sure that you have uniformed everything for your, so it's much more easier for you to be found on different social medias. So that's me. And you can also hear me very, very undercuffed and very, very vulgar on Geo Talks. I do not hold my tongue, and it's mad funny. And also I bully David.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is David Richardson, AKA Calm Warrior. You can find me on Twitter at Calm Warrior, JA, short for Jamaica, where I'm originally from. I'm also the creator of TO Talks. That said, it's on Twitter as well, at TO Talk Esports, I think.
It's TO Talk Esports, yeah.
Yeah. I've been around for a while. You guys can always feel free to reach out to me. There's some people I have to get back to. I've been busy. A lot of stuff that I'm working on.
Brad?
And Brad?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at its_BradM, or if you just look up Brad Muse, I tend to be pretty easy to find. And if you're looking for a local, because I'm local to the area, there's going to be stuff, Balance Patch tomorrow night, but also want to show some love to Game Underground, Traveling Controller, all that stuff, which is all the local area. I know there's some people excited for it. And if your online is your bag, Casa Bunch on Twitter for where most of my stuff happens.
Thank you.
Yes, Boston
Thank
Blue
you,
Beat.
everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you around PAX East.